This is good. Questions are passageways to new life. It is not the job of a card reader to promise revelations, because that's not how secrets work. The 78 arcana, the mysteries great and small, are to be approached with the respect due to elders, as entities unto themselves, whose trust must be earned. As is the case with any companion, where there is curiosity, commitment, respect, and a genuine wish to understand, the cards will tell you secrets over time. You can be sure of that. Tarot and psychology, a brief history. Tarot is often considered more a spiritual practice than a psychological one, but it is inherently psychological, and psychology is inherently spiritual. In fact, the word psychology comes from the word psyche, which means soul or breath in Greek. Though the psychology field has changed over years of theory and practice, to a certain extent it will always be an art of coming to know the soul. Sigmund Freud, who is regarded in the West as the father of modern psychology, sought to understand the human psyche through the process of psychoanalysis. A goal of psychoanalytic work was to make the unconscious conscious. When you think about the trope of a person lying on a couch next to an analyst in a suit with a clipboard saying, "Tell me about your father," they're doing psychoanalysis. That therapeutic process would often involve a deep dive into early childhood experiences in order to better understand one's experiences in the present day. Carl Jung, who was a student of Freud's, developed theories of a collective unconscious, a sort of psychic undercurrent that he believed all humans share, and that might account for common drives, motivations, and behaviors that transcend the bounds of cultural and geographic difference. The collective unconscious has been described as a sort of shared psychological inheritance that reveals itself through dreams, myths, and fairy tales, and in social dynamics of power and oppression. Unlike the personal unconscious, which contains the dimensions of our individual experience that have been driven underground, often through environmental and social conditioning, the collective unconscious is believed by some to be the home of archetypes. Jung thought of archetypes as universal symbols and images with meanings that all humans share. I'm not sure I agree that archetypes have the same universal meanings to all humans, but I can see how some resonate across cultures. For each of us, the archetype of mother can activate something, though not the same thing for all of us, as does the archetypal theme of death. And I agree with Jungian analyst Marie-Louise von Franc's assertion that when an archetypal image shows up, as might happen in a tarot card reading, for example, the person witnessing that image will become aware of new, previously unrecognized possibilities, and through them will experience a fresh influx of energy. For the archetypes possess a numinous quality and function as a hidden source of energy. We aren't all going to experience archetypes or symbols in the same way, nor should we be expected to, but they can stir something in us and tell us something if we allow space for that. Jung believed that the collective unconscious influenced our individual lives and held keys to meaning-making, psychological development, and individuation, a process through which a person achieves a sense of individual identity separate from the collective. Through psychoanalysis, a person might learn to move flexibly between the explicit content of the conscious mind and the tacit, symbolic material of the unconscious. In archetypal terms, we might say the hope was that a person could begin to exist somewhere in the tension between the village and the forest, civilization and the wild, to be both emperor and empress in the right place and time. Jung also contributed ideas about the therapeutic value of synchronicity, which he defined as a meaningful coincidence of external and internal events that are not connected by any discernible cause and effect relationship. An example of synchronicity is when you suddenly think of a friend you haven't seen in years, only to receive a call from that person soon after. Such a thing could be bare coincidence, but to the person inclined toward meaning-making, it can also hint at a connection between the external and internal, dimensions that generally appear as separate and distinct from one another. When an internal event, such as a thought of an old friend, syncs up with an external event, like that old friend calling, we might begin to sense a link between what we experience as an individual and what we understand as a whole. Synchronicity is, in the words of ecologist Robin Wall Kimmerer, a reminder of elegant connections. Exploring relationships between things that cannot be explained by simple cause and effect is a doorway to understanding the relationship between psyche, a more collective consciousness, and matter. When synchronicities occur, as is so often the case when we